So yeah, again, when you're trending your own data, the things that you want to note are key dates. You know, I had mentioned when we lost a PA, that date was very important to keep in mind when I was presenting data over the next 6 months until we recruited another PA and got them up to running in their productivity. So those things matter. Again, it isn't just the bottom line or the final, you know, number from any given report. Looking at key dates, you could have, you know, maybe added a line of service. Maybe you added physical therapy or you added MRI, something like that. Keep those things in mind because they do have an impact on the whole picture moving forward. Compared to benchmarking trends, you know, having consistent survey participation by our members really helps with trend data. Trend data is just as important as you know, the quarterly things that you report and those kind of benchmarks. So there's those as well. Terry or Tara, do you have anything?
No, I just, you know, like you said, that key dates is important. You know, things like in the summer when you've got, you know, 3 guys go on vacation for 2 weeks, that's obviously going to affect if you do your numbers monthly or even quarterly. So, you know, noting key dates and having those at hand when you're sitting down with your physicians, so you can say, yeah, this quarter wasn't as good as the last quarter, but you know, this is how many days off doctors took and things like that, because that can all obviously play into it.
Yeah, especially on an eat what you kill model. I mean, when you've got it so tied into productivity, when one physician is taking more time off than his peers, maybe he's in a different place in his career, that is going to impact his particular productivity and his results. And so making sure to, you know, remind him of those things when those issues come up is very important. Some more tips and tricks. We can talk about filters. The filters that are available, I can't talk well enough about them. They're so helpful just in drilling down to exactly what everybody needs. You know, practice size, again, is important. It's especially important as if your practice size is changing. You know, I went over a 2-year period. I went from a 2-provider to a 5-provider practice. And so being able to, you know, show the way that data changed along those changes really was helpful and eased some of the anxiety that came along with all of the changes that were associated with growing our practice at that rate. Region and state matter. So do lines of service. Those things are all different across state lines and in different parts of the country. And so being able to, you know, get a good comparison. I like what Tara had to say. You know, if those reports, certain reports, there weren't 5 or more participants in your particular area, look at other parts of the country that you know are similar and kind of build that for yourself. Certain of the filters, you can do it by region, but then there's another filter that actually lets you choose specific states. Obviously, it's states where people participated. If we didn't have participants in that state, they're not going to be there. But you can really just, you know, pick and choose and build something from within the data that we have if it isn't, you know, if it wasn't reported well in your particular area. Applying multiple filters, that also helps. There's just such a variety here. Like I said, I can't speak well enough about it. It's very, very helpful. Tara or Terry, did you have any additional comments here?
I would say for me, you know, getting the data the first time I had the access to my survey results was really just taking time to really play around with it to see what the different filters provided me with, and then coming back to it later to say, okay, well, I'm trying to find this, what would be a good filter to apply so I can get what I'm really looking for. I think initially you really just kind of need to play around with it, and don't be afraid to, you know, like Olivia said, put 2 or 3 different filters on and see what happens and see what the data shows. I think that by just kind of playing around and getting comfortable with it, then you'll find more and more uses for, oh, wait, I need to present this at my next board meeting. Let me run in and look and see what our benchmarking data said from last year compared to this year.
You know, I would just say that to me, there's no better way to evaluate your practice versus other practice than to use the filters. There's no other data out there that has the filter capabilities that this survey has, and being able to just pare down so much, you know, even when it comes to physician compensation, being able to take out a surgery center if you don't have a surgery center, that's a huge income source for physicians, and being able to carve that out gives you such a truer picture of where you truly stand. So to me, that's the biggest thing the filters allow is you to get the clearest picture of what your practice has compared to others, whether it be specialty or size or geographic area, or like I said, service line, ASC, if you have MRI, if you have PT. There's no other data out there that can give you such a clear picture by allowing you to filter so much. And they're easy to use, and they can truly make a difference in your practice.
So if we can move to the next slide, here's some additional tips and tricks on pulling it all together. Choose your reports. Terry made some really good points about knowing your audience, which the reports that may matter to us as administrators and in the big picture may be different than what you need to present to your doctors at your meetings. So know who you're talking to and then choose your reports based on that. Apply your filters, make sure that you're again, getting data that's in the context that you want to match the discussion. And then you can take screenshots. I know there's printing capabilities out of the results, and then put them side by side in a presentation. For me, I really like that, my practice data, that black bar, you can show it right next to the industry standard, based on whatever filters that you put on it to be able to show side by side. Okay, here's where you're at, and here's where the industry standard is, and let the discussion go from there. Any other thoughts on this, Terry or Tara? Okay, and then moving on to, I believe, what is the last slide. Identify the areas that are important to your practice. Again, depending on where you are in your growth, the age and practice years of your provider population. What are the areas that are important to you in your practice? Those will vary practice to practice. And then start tracking that for your practice. You can, I know a lot of practice management systems have good reporting tools, and so you can look at your own monthly or quarterly numbers based on the data from the benchmarking survey, and look at those throughout the year. Again, Terry made a good point. Summers, they change, productivity changes, it goes down. I know in Alaska, nobody gets surgery in the summer unless they absolutely have to. They want to be out halibut fishing. And so when you know those things about your geographical area, you can shine that light on the data and say, okay, yes, it's lower than last quarter, given everything else. However, we're still, in a really good position. And then sometimes these reports highlight when operational changes need to be made, and so they drive really good conversations about either staffing changes or, like Terry said, why aren't we measuring up in MRI? I thought we really were doing really well, and using that data to point to specific pieces of the process that you might need to analyze a little bit better. Terry, do you have any additional comments here?
I would just say something about that last line on here about strategic or operational changes. We've talked a lot today about using this data now and what we've done, but it can be a valuable tool looking forward. It can help you go to your physicians if they're considering adding a service line. Maybe you don't have a hand physician and you're going to add it. Maybe you're thinking of adding spine or MRI or PT. This can allow you to go out and look at what other hand surgeons, spine surgeons are doing, what MRI could do, and it can really help you in the future as well, and help you go to your physicians and evaluate future service lines that can be so important as we all look to stay ahead of healthcare and generate more revenue. So don't think of it as just information about where you are now or what you've done in the last couple of years, but there's many things in there you can use to look ahead and help move your practice forward.
Yeah, that's really good points, Terry. It's, being able to, by participating and then having access to the results, you have access to all of it. I don't have MRI or PT or DME. I don't have any of those things, but yet because I participated in the survey, I have access to all of the data of all the other participants who did have data for that area. And so I could go look at, what the industry average is for MRI. Is that something that's going to serve us in the long term? Do we need to start looking at adding that in order to stay independent from the hospitals, or whatever else those questions are? So yeah, it's a huge, huge benefit to have access to all the data where you haven't been yet, but may want to go. And because all of our peers and other members of AAOE have participated, all that data is available. So it's definitely a benefit to membership, and really just makes everybody's job easier, in my opinion.